that had, I mean, 7 College World Series teams in my career, 2 as a player and 5 as a coach. And to go, winning was, part of our, I guess the word culture. It was a part of the culture. It's what we did. We understood the work and the process and the players and everything else. And then maybe, again, a place where it wasn't so much. A lot of great people. I mean, I loved all those guys, Floyd Temple, Marty Patton, loved them all. Great people, but there was just a limited resource that they had to kind of compete with some of the other programs. So thankfully, we had a guy named Forrest Hoagland who had begun to put some interest in the program, who was a graduate there, and added a little stadium and scoreboard and some scholarships. And, now all of a sudden we had full scholarship limitation at Kansas. And, Floyd, I think, played most of the time with like 1 scholarship,
Wow.
throughout the years. And we were now fully funded. So when I came in there, we had, the resources to try to accumulate players. And then it was my job to create a culture of winning. So, and it was a process. It was a tough process for a while, for sure.
It was, but you kind of continually improved bit by bit the first few years, and then the year before you would have great success in '93. You didn't have the best of seasons. Was it a point where you maybe were thinking, "Boy, this is tougher than I thought"?
I think that, I think there was even a newspaper article that said I said something like that. I wish I hadn't, but I did.
Right.
So, like this was tougher than I thought it was going to be, type of a thing, and I wasn't sure that I was up to it and all that. But I wish I hadn't had that article. But sometimes I couldn't keep my mouth shut. So you know how it goes. But
right.
And sometimes the media is waiting for you to make that mistake, and I did. I fell right into it. But yeah, it's kind of a crazy thing. In 1992, we were really good, but we had a player named Jeff Berblinger, who was quite possibly one of the better players ever to play there, who got hurt in our first conference series.
Right.
And so we went 28-31 that year without him playing. And
right.
The next year we go 45-18, and Jeff Berblinger played every out of the season. And so, again, about being fortunate, lucky, whatever, was unlucky in 92 that he was hurt. And then we were extremely fortunate in 93 that he was there every day. And on top of that, we added just an absolute treasure of a young man in Jamie Splittorff, who was Paul Splittorff's son, who was an absolute warrior, as a freshman and on the mound, and that was a big difference maker. And those 2 additions, to have them for the full year, were a big part of our success.
That was a big year for Kansas sports, and they went in the bowl game and Final Four and the College World Series eventually. Take us down the road to Omaha.
That's funny. Like nowadays, they don't. They didn't track it back then so much, but nowadays, they would add women's basketball in there because Marion Washington also was had a great basketball season. Was part of that number of the 4 who had achieved. So now they would track all that, but back then it was just everything was advertised between the football, basketball, and baseball, and everybody kind of thought we could put football in a bowl game, and obviously Kansas playing basketball in the Final Four is pretty much a given. But to have baseball actually make the College World Series was beyond belief for most people. So, except for the 25 players and coaches that were involved in it, they were about the only ones that thought we could.
Tell us a little bit about the postseason run.
We ended up getting selected as the number 3 seed in the Knoxville Regional, and as it turns out, at Tennessee they had just built a brand new stadium, Lindsey Nelson Stadium, that they've continued to build on right now. And but anyway, it was their first year, and so we at that time those were 6-team regionals. Now most of those are 4, and they go to super regional. But this was a 6-team regional, and some of the iconic teams in college baseball were there, in Fresno State, who has had multiple
Right.
World Series appearances and regional appearances. Clemson, Tennessee, of course, ourselves, and then Rutgers, and actually I forget the sixth one now, but anyway. So we play a tough game against Fresno and lose. And back in those days, the 6-team regional was if you were the loser of the 3-4 game, got to play the winner of the 1-6 game.
Right.
And so I think Tennessee beat Rutgers, who was the 6th seed, and we lost to Fresno State. So we got Tennessee at 8:00 at night in the their first regional appearance in Lindsey Nelson Stadium with a full house, and we run out a 175-pound tall, skinny right-hander from Blue Springs, Missouri, named Jamie Splittorff, and he carves them up for 8 1/3 innings, and we hang on and end up getting Todd Helton to fly out to the warning track, and then Jimmy Walker comes in and punches out Bubba Trammell for us for a 2-1 win to stay alive in the regional.
2 longtime major leaguers there.
Yeah, Todd Helton was okay. We always joke about that. We knew Jimmy Walker was a great player for us and a great reliever, but he struggled with left-handed hitting, and so we knew Todd Helton. So we brought in Tom Stewart, who I always thought would be a great situational guy for us anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Little soft-throwing left-hander, and he threw some kind of something up there. I don't know what he called it. It was just slower and slowest anyway. But he ended up, I don't know if you're Lindsey Nelson Stadium, it's a small ballpark. And
right.
So he gets Todd Helton to fly out to the warning track. So we kept him in the ballpark and get the strikeout, and we're we're in the tournament, and Tennessee's got a tough battle in front of them all the way through. They got to beat Clemson. They had lined up, I think, Clemson, Fresno State, all of them, everybody that was good, they had to win their way through. Well, the Tennessee ended up losing, and eventually we get to Fresno State for the regional championship after rain and everything else. And so we ran out Jimmy Walker, and he went 10 innings.
Wow.
And ended up beating Fresno State. It was kind of funny. They had scored, or it looked like that they were going to win, so all the media had cameras and everything in their dugout. And the next thing we know, we get a runner at third base in the 10th inning, and we had a 2-hop ground ball to shortstop, and Brent Wilhelm, who was the best guy we had at running a contact play, the very best play. I'm very fortunate. Life is about opportunity and fortune. Somehow we get the best base runner we've got at the time at this play, and he's there. And we put a ball in play with the infield in. They throw high to home plate. He slides in safely, and we're going to Omaha. So kind of a crazy deal. But, it's about, we could have had 100 different things happen and different situations develop and not gotten there. But we were chosen ones in that one, have the right people at the place at the right time, and it worked for us. So,
what was Omaha like for an experience for you and the program?
Well, it was incredible, obviously. I mean, it's the dream it's the dream of everybody coaching that someday that you'd be in Omaha or take a team to Omaha. And this was a very confident team. They handled everything. I mean, you've been around sports teams, and sometimes you load the bus up and you can feel the nervousness and the doubt and everything else. This team was never that way. It was loose, confident. When the bus loaded, man, it was smiles, and it was the same way, all year until we got on the bus to go to Omaha. And I was not a good coach for that team in that point. I guess I was probably just like them, was awed by being able to do this as any one of them, and didn't do a good job of preparing them for what they were going to do. And I will never forget Jeff Berman. We'd all, these are Midwestern kids. They'd all been to Omaha. They'd all,
Right.
through whatever thing they'd played. They'd been in Rosenblatt and seen games and been there forever. And I'll never forget when Jeff Berbinger said, "Man, it just doesn't look the same. It just doesn't look the same." And I'm going like, "Oh my gosh!" And it was too late by that time,
Right.
to make some adjustments. But we all were, and I think the great coach Skip Bertman always said that you'll have a hard time winning the first time in Omaha,
Right?
And because it's overwhelming, basically. The magnitude of it, your players' response to it. You don't see many guys. I mean, so for the teams that have that kind of success going there the first time and win, it's not the norm, So
Right.
we fell into what everybody else said, And the sad thing of it is, we weren't able to show how good that team was.
Right.
Because it was a way better team. In fact, of the 8 teams, we had beaten 4 of the other teams.
Right.
And even though we were the 8th seed, they had history. We'd beat Oklahoma State more than they'd beat us that year. We'd beaten Wichita State. We'd beat everybody there. I mean, the ones that we played, and we beat Oklahoma State. We beat all of them in their yard or whatever, and so, but. A big part of it is we didn't finish until Monday night, late, like almost midnight, and we played the first game on Friday in Omaha.
Right.
And our reliever, Jimmy Walker, threw 10 innings on a Monday night. And I couldn't pitch him on Friday.
Right.
I mean, there's no chance to bring him into a game. And so we talk about the opportunity for luck, but then we played Texas A&M, and they got the first pick in the country. Was it Granger? Yeah, I think
Yep.
so. I think he was a Royals draft, wasn't he? Anyway, but we got the first pick in the country on a left-hander on the mound against us, and we play a close game, but we can't control it because we can't go to the bullpen the way we
Right.
normally do, and so then we get in the losers bracket, and then it was just we had a hard time then on the next day, so 2 days later. So, but
Yep.
Still a fabulous experience.
Right.
These kids were amazing what they achieved, and just I can't tell you how exhilarating it was for everybody to be involved with it, and so exciting. So pretty cool.
Next year, you had another really great season and played in the NCAA tournament, and then the season that followed was not quite as successful, and then basically almost at the top of your game, and after building this program, you decided to go in a different direction.
Yeah, it was. I was exhausted, and I don't think I was making the best decisions for the team or the program, and it was obvious that. I needed to do something else, and so I think Bob Frederick was, helping with that too, and we both agreed that this was probably not the right thing. So I was exhausted. I was just beat, and the one thing I tell young coaches all the time is take care of yourself. It's physically, and I had not done that. I had just, burned the candle at both ends and pushed it as hard as I could. And I think I didn't make the best decisions at that time for that team, in '95. And so it was a different group. And, I had hoped that all the things we had done, they understood and probably just misevaluated the deal. And so anyway, one of those things. So it was time to move on.
And you did, and you opened a baseball academy and did that for a decade. Did you enjoy that part of it?
When I got done, it was like, I don't want to start over at this thing. I want to be with players who still have the dream, and that's where the whole academy thing came alive. And I wanted to be involved with kids who were still trying to get somewhere and do something, as opposed to some people who had already lost the dream. And so that was the whole idea behind the academy, and did that for 10 years. And, at the time, it was pretty cool because, we could gather the top players in and around the Kansas City area, and we grouped with guys out, Jerry Daniels from St. Louis, and we ended up developing a thing called Premier Baseball, and we had eight